Thank you for tuning in to the Practical Preservation Podcast. Please take a moment to visit our website, practicalpreservationservices.com, for additional information and tips to help you restore your historical home. If you've not done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and also like us on Facebook. Welcome to the Practical Preservation Podcast, hosted by Danielle and Jonathan Kepperling. Kepperling Preservation Services is a family-owned business based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, dedicated to the preservation of our built architectural history for today's use as well as future generations. Our weekly podcast provides you with expert advice specific to the unique needs of renovating a historic home, educating by sharing our From the Trenches preservation knowledge and our guests' expertise, balancing modern needs while maintaining the historical significance, character, and beauty of your period home.
This is Danielle with the Historic Restorations Podcast, and today we have Jay Reyher with us from Quanta Technologies to talk about storm windows and their possibilities for use for retaining your original windows. So thank you, Jay, for joining us today on the podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Danielle.
You're welcome. So we talked a little bit before we hit the record button and talked about storm windows and the different experiences that we've had. But I'd like to know a little bit more about you. How did you get started in preservation, or if it's a better question, how did you start your business making storm windows so that we can preserve those the original windows?
So actually, I approached it more from the technology perspective. Earlier in my career, I actually ran a fairly large business as part of a chemical company, and we produced coatings that were used on architectural glass for new construction, in order to provide energy efficiency to buildings. And at that time, we were looking at opportunities to grow the business and had worked on a project with the U.S. Department of Energy to demonstrate that you could engineer a storm window that would provide comparable performance to that of a brand new window. Having developed that, it sat on the shelves for several years, quite a few years, in fact, until we decided to start this company to bring that technology to market.
Okay, and are the majority of your projects, are they new construction, old construction, or preservation? What types of projects do you get involved with?
Almost all of our projects are retrofit or existing construction. We do have some exceptions. For example, in Wilmington, Delaware, they're going to be building a new apartment building that's near a railroad track, and they'll be using the sound reduction benefits of our window technology in conjunction with brand new windows in order to get a quiet environment for the apartment.
That makes sense, yeah.
But in most cases, it's existing buildings, and many of those are either estate properties where a residential property would have a very large number of windows, the original windows. The architecture is such that the owner wants to retain those windows, but wants modern day window performance. Or historic properties, both commercial, multifamily, and residential.
Very, very interesting, and yeah, you do both, public and private buildings. That's very similar to what we do. Why do you think that the preservation of our historic buildings is important, or retaining the original windows?
Well, I think windows actually end up being a significant architectural feature of every building.
They are, yes.
And most especially historic buildings. And you never really can replicate those to the same degree if you seek to manufacture those from brand new materials. Right,
especially if you're trying to do like a mass-produced replacement window option. You just can't get the same look, and you even oftentimes make the openings smaller and change the complete appearance of the interior and exterior of the building. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So having been in this business for some time, I guess I've become somewhat of a window snob. I find it difficult to see a beautiful historic property where the windows have been replaced by something brand new, because I think it really detracts from the features of that property.
Right. Are your storm windows? Do you have interior options or just exterior at this point?
We actually have both. We have 3 series. We have an exterior series, which is our 500 series, that installs on the exterior, and those can be either fixed or operational. Mm-hmm. So if it were a property or windows that you wanted fresh air ventilation, ours can open as well. We have an interior series, which is our 600 series, which is a really unique design. It's patented in order to achieve a very low air infiltration amount, which is an important part of the performance.
Right. How do you seal then the edges? I know that we've used some that were like the magnets, but how do you seal your edges?
Well, that particular product has a box beam type design on the frame, and the frame actually has channels which create insulating barriers between the existing jamb and the storm window system.
Right.
And in addition to that, it has a compressible seal, which is around the perimeter, that actually helps to seal even if you have a slightly out of square condition of the original window.
Right. Okay.
We also have just launched our 700 series, which is an architectural series, which incorporates the features of the interior product but on an exterior product, and achieves an even lower profile than our 500 series.
And that's an exterior.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. Very. Yeah. The low profile is usually what our clients are looking for, because they don't want to see it. So you didn't start out from a preservation background, but you've become a preservationist. What do you wish that you knew when you started that you know now?
I think, and that was a great segue into the question, I think we originally focused solely on energy, and that was a limitation.
Right.
And as we've had the product in the market and as we've better understood the market, we now offer a product which improves performance. And it's broader than just energy.
Right.
It's performance in terms of energy, comfort, reducing a problem, for example, condensation associated with temperature, reducing or improving acoustical performance within a room or noise propagation from outside. And all of those things that can be done while allowing the building owner to retain the original windows.
Right. And that's usually what people want to do is, at least from a preservation standpoint, is to retain the windows, but then also get those modern benefits so that it is comfortable. And maybe you've already kind of told us, but I was curious as to what your biggest mistake was, but maybe it was focusing on energy rather than preservation to begin.
I would say so, and I think it took most of my experience prior to this has been with very large organizations. It just took longer, I think, and has taken longer to really get the product into the market and get it accepted than I thought it would.
Right, right.
Having said that, what's kind of interesting right now is that we actually have a very nice portfolio of buildings, everything from very large high-rises to single-family historic properties, churches, schools, you name it. And I often ask myself, was that a necessary step? In other words, is it necessary to build that portfolio, and could have we done that any faster? And I'm not sure that we could have.
Right. It takes a little bit for the market, and as we were talking about before we started recording, that it's an education process too, because people don't always know what their options are for making their original windows energy efficient, or even because they just hear that you have to replace and there are options for making it just as energy efficient as a replacement window.
Exactly.
Right. Right.
It's always a pleasure when you find someone who is a historic preservationist or who appreciates the historic properties, and they find us or find our product and make a remark like, we've been looking for this.
Right.
This is exactly what we need.
Yes. So what do you see as the biggest preservation challenge? Is it the education component, or is there something else that you're finding as you learn about this niche market yourself?
I think it probably is the education, and it's creating awareness by all of those parties that have interest, that there is an option available. The replacement window marketers and manufacturers have done an exceptional job in convincing everybody that that's the only solution that's out there. There are very few companies like Quanta that actually have an innovative solution that allows you to retain your windows. Our biggest challenge is creating that awareness for people that have interest. Right.
And I was thinking too that's why we pretty much tell people that we work on buildings that were built before the end of World War II, and really there wasn't a lot of building being done during the Depression or World War II because all the resources were going towards either there wasn't money to build or it was big public works projects, or the resources were going towards the war. But because after that we got products that could just be installed. And that's what the replacement window did. And they took that mass marketing mindset of the 50s and 60s, and they've continued to push and push and push, the replacement window, rather than retaining what was there. And it does put you into a replacement window cycle because those windows don't last 100, 200 years like our original windows do.
Absolutely. In fact, I think that's the biggest shame of it. There have been several instances where we've encountered people that had beautiful, original, divided light windows. We're actually looking at a courthouse in Pennsylvania right now that has beautiful mahogany windows. They've been there for 75 to 100 years. They've spec'd and will install our interior product. But if they would have been convinced to install a replacement, more likely than not, that would have lasted between 15 and 25 years and had to have been replaced again.
Right.
So not only does it take away architecturally, it, as you say, puts them into the replacement window cycle.
Right, it does. And thinking about that, it also changes the way the building works energy-wise, especially if you're not planning on using centralized air conditioning and you want to be able to open your windows, that the buildings were designed to have the windows open so that the air could flow through.
Yeah.
And you're taking that away also. Our old office, none of the windows would open, and that was my biggest complaint about that, because we don't live at our house in air conditioning all the time, and I love to open the windows and have fresh air in. So yeah, I would be very upset if I got replacement windows. So, well, except the one thing that I do love about replacement windows, it's my public confession, is the Tilton. But I just solved that by not cleaning my windows. So what trends do you see in preservation?
I would say we see a lot more enthusiasm. I think there is interest in maintaining the buildings that are out there. Mm-hmm. There's adaptive reuse, I think, has become a very interesting trend.
Right, in development.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's cost effective. B, certainly it's supported or by using innovative ways to finance, including historic tax credits, whether they be federal or state, provide a very good opportunity from a financing standpoint.
Right.
But it really allows a developer to create a very unique building that's substantially different than if he would have leveled and built a brand new building that would have looked, like any other building.
Right. And it creates. It's reusing what's already there, so it's the ultimate green building, too, because you already have all that embodied energy that you're not tearing down to build new and using more resources and everything else. There's an old, it's probably from the early 80s, probably right after the energy crisis. It's an old the National Trust ad, and it's a building that looks like a gas can, and it tells you how many gallons of gas it takes when you tear down a building, in a comparison. And I love that ad. I when we are posting for like Earth Day, or I always pull that up and repost it, because it's just it really does show you that the amount of energy to do a new building is if you're tearing down something that's already there and usable, it doesn't make sense fiscally or environmentally.
Yeah. There's another aspect. I had a conversation earlier this week with an engineering company that's doing some ESCO projects, and I was asking them the question with respect to, energy prices are down substantially and expected to stay down. Does that make ESCO or doing projects that improve energy consumption less attractive? And the response was interesting. They said, absolutely not. Because you really have to separate energy and the source of energy and let's say renewable energies.
Right.
And you really want to think about the economics of those. Renewable energies actually don't compete economically with some of your fossil fuels at the moment. And perhaps at a certain point in time they will. But if we are making investments in our building stock in this country trying to reduce the overall energy consumption, that's a good investment irrespective of what the source of energy is. And the other thing that, the reduction in demand is actually very attractive because that enables the utilities to either idle or not utilize their lower cost production, energy production in times of peak demand. So the whole ESCO aspect of the market, just in terms of the energy thing, I think is also a very, very interesting driver.
It is, and it makes sense to. It's the balancing, present day needs with future development, and we try to take that approach with people when they're looking at their homes and what they want to do. I'm like, you're going to live here. You have to be comfortable. You have to, balance what today's needs are, but then don't do anything that's going to hurt the building. So, it's the same kind of idea that you have to have like a present day, but also a future and a past, mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, are there any ways that you keep up with preservation trends? Is there anything that you follow or watch or read?
Not really. I mean, I try to stay abreast of it as much as I can and really try to understand what technology is being offered. But that'd probably be the limit.
Yeah. Well, and coming from a technical background, that makes sense. So, do you have a favorite resource for preservation or energy or anything along those lines? That you would want to recommend for our listeners?
What we've actually worked a lot with the Department of Energy from an energy and a comfort standpoint. There's like many products, and again I guess this comes back to my technical background.
Right.
Like many products, there's a lot of technology that's built into it, and the same is the case with Windows.
Right.
And so we have worked with and used the Department of Energy. We're also working with the EPA and actually in the process of, they're in the process of coming up with an Energy Star label for architectural low-E storm windows.
Oh, that's great.
Which should be available sometime in 2018. Yeah. So I like having those resources, and I think it helps to give an unbiased, objective view of technologies and how they need to compete.
Right, and I know for a brief moment in time during the economic downturn, they were actually offering tax credits for storm windows, and then I think probably the replacement window lobby got that removed. But there was a brief moment where that was being offered. So the Energy Star, though, I think will help that then become more mainstream.
Absolutely.
So that I'm excited to hear that. So what makes your storm window different from other storm window companies?
So I would say, number one, we focus on performance. Our product is designed to provide the same performance, in some cases better performance, than what you would get if you replace your windows. And it's designed from an architectural standpoint not to be seen. So really, whether it's installed in the interior or the exterior, what you will see and should see is your original window. And we do that in any number of ways. The manner, the specific design of the product. We also have a custom color line of colors, which isn't truly custom because it's a siliconized polyester powder coat. But we've got 225 colors that we offer, so that almost in any case, a homeowner or building owner can find one of those that's a close enough match that our product, once installed, integrates with the existing.
And blends in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Instead of those chunky old, mid-century aluminum that's just the aluminum finish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, okay. So did you want to make an offer or a promotion for our audience?
Sure. So, we use, and it's certainly appropriate, our website, which is www.quantapanel.com. We use that for both our commercial business as well as our residential business, and we actually have the ability on our website for consumers who would seek to DIY, to install themselves, to place an order directly.
Oh, that's great.
So I would offer that if anybody would go to our website and be interested in doing so, there's plenty of information there, but if they go to the buyer's guide, that's where they can construct an order. And if they used a promo code QP1703, we would be willing to give a 10% discount for a limited time.
Right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I will make sure that gets added to our website also if you didn't have a chance to write that down, so that you can take advantage of that offer. Thank you very much. So I know you just gave us your website. You can give it to us again, though. And how can our audience get a hold of you or find out more information? And I don't know. And I know you said that there's a way to order online, which is great because that makes it easy. You can decide on a weekend that you want to do this and take your measurements and get your order in.
That probably would be the easiest way. Of course, we have we can be reached by phone, and presumably that will be on your link as well.
Yes, we'll put all your contact information on our website. But yeah, just and then it'll also be in the transcript too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But reaching out to our website, and as you get to our website, you'll see that you can follow a residential path if it's a single family home.
Okay.
You can follow a commercial path, or you can follow a buyer's guide, which would help anyone who is interested in actually DIY and buying it yourself. And often what we do, we're perhaps trying to become, I jokingly say, the Amazon of the architectural low-E storm window business. We have developed the ability, or are developing the ability, if someone has the interest, we have measurement guides. Often we will FedEx a small sample so that a customer can see the product before they make their purchasing decision.
Yes.
Assist them with measurements. They can place the measurements directly on our site, and then we ship direct to their home. So that's the way that we're really trying to target the direct consumer, in addition to working through contractors, and then certainly the commercial business is all contract.
Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or that you thought about while we were talking?
I think this is an incredibly interesting space. I am happy that it's evolved me into the restoration area. A lot of my prior experience has been in building products, and this is one area where I think the restoration is really prominent. And that's exciting.
It is.
It's a very exciting area.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And we will have all of Jay's information on our website, and you can go there and find what you need to and link right to his site. Thank you for listening to the Historic Restorations Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Preservation Podcast. The resources discussed during this episode are on our website at practicalpreservationservices.com/podcast. If you received value from this episode and know someone else that will get value from it as well, please share it with them. Join us next week for another episode of the Practical Preservation Podcast. For more information on restoring your historic home, visit practicalpreservationservices.com.